Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
Jimmy Mac, Jimmy, oh Jimmy Mac.
There you go.
When are you coming back?
That's your song.
Jimmy Mac.
J Mac Mechanical Services. Jim McGregor is one of our guests here today. You're listening to StrataLife, part of our Experts on Call here at CL 650. Joining me in studio is Jim McGregor himself. We also have Drew Grout from Key Pacific Property Management. I'm saying it too quickly. I've had my big coffee now. Key Pacific Property Management and Albert Atfield, Project Manager at CanStar Restoration. So I think in the next segment here, we're going to get Albert in talking a little bit about restorations, and Jim, you can jump in as well about the mechanical side of this. We have our next question. We've had several floods in our parkade. Do we have to do anything other than pump the water out? It's typically a parkade's concrete, right? That's the foundation of the building.
Generally, that would be all I would recommend. But if you've had several issues, you need to involve a plumber to give you some expert advice to figure out what's causing that. You don't want it to persist. That gets expensive, having somebody come in to pump out water. So ideally, I would involve a plumber immediately to try and resolve the issue.
Now, was that typically a drainage thing in the parkade?
It could be. It could be a groundwater thing, rainwater. But ultimately, you need a place for that water to go, or you need to solve that problem. Otherwise, it's like you said, you're going to have it coming back and coming back. So if it's coming, I've seen in Vancouver, especially on, down by Broadway and on going down the hill to the water there's when it rains really hard, there's a lot of parkades that get water during the rainy season.
Yeah.
And
that's the Fairview Slopes, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, and those are older buildings. They were built in the 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah, so at that point, you have to put sufficient drainage in the ground to handle that, and sometimes that means cutting up floors to put it in, too. But if you have, other that, you're pumping it out on...
Sumps.
Yeah, that's right, and it can be a really... a problematic thing that you have to be fixed and looked at, but it can be expensive to fix too if it's not handled properly.
And that's where the management company comes in and says, in our, we recommend you do this, but the Strata doesn't like to hear that you're going to have a special, what do they call it?
Special levy.
Assessment. You got to pay some extra money to get this done. Nobody likes those ones.
Yeah. You don't always have to do that. Sometimes you have a significant
contingency.
Yeah, exactly, and you can draw from that. But
well, one of the challenges I've run into with similar issues is we have to remember that all the drains and everything for the entire complex usually run through the parkade, be it sewage and whatnot. And if the building settles or moves or whatnot, I've seen where the exit of the actual drain lines moves. So now you've got a halfway line, so people are throwing debris that shouldn't be in their toilets in there, and it slowly coagulates the lines, and then you back up. So there's all different types of issues that can come to light.
So is that a big one? Is getting an auger and going in there, and is sewage a big one? Well, people throwing all kinds of things in the toilet that they shouldn't?
Yeah, sewage is a problem in the parkades. So what we do at that point, if we find we'll go in and we'll flush the lines out, and just using a power flusher, clean all the lines out, then videotape it all for all the sanitary mains, and you could do that for the storm, but the storm normally isn't the problem that way. It's a sanitary where they come from vertical to horizontal. So at that point, that's when you bring somebody in and do the whole parkade. Now, if it was a groundwater problem and it's going into the catch basins that are on the parking level, that's a different issue too again. But
so that's all the rainwater then?
That's rainwater. But it's especially when it leaves or exits the building, when you go up, say, a driving ramp or something like that, and if you get a lot of leaves and a lot of stuff that's plugging up the drains, it's part of your maintenance program that you have to be looking after that type of stuff, right?
All right, so let's get to the next one. Let's talk about the elements of a safety plan that unit owners should have in place for an emergency situation at their strata. Is this something that should be practiced? Like, what do you do in a certain situation?
Well, that's an ongoing discussion. There are some stratas out there that, I guess the earthquake thing really brings this to the foreground for people, but thinking about disasters and emergencies like that, and it takes participation by the councils and the owners. Certainly the property manager will assist in any way they can.
So one would be the main shutoff for the gas line, right? Like that's the one I hear about earthquakes all the time, is that it's not so much the shake, it's the fire after that that destroys the building. So someone should know where the main gas line shutoff is, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And water shutoff even. I mean,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know.
And-
So who would you would designate somebody, the leader on that? Is that typically what happens?
In terms of responding?
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to run around as a management company to every building to do that.
Exactly. So often you'll have one or two individuals who are on the council who know where most of them should know where it is, but who are ready to jump to assist in that regard because they're on site. If an owner calls and puts in an emergency call, often the emergency service is trying to touch base with some of those council people to be the eyes and ears anyway. So it's important that anything that they know that they can do, turn off the gas or turn off the water.
Would it be a good idea for the members of this Strata Council? So typically, how many people are on the
7?
that they should walk through the building with somebody like yourself to say, this is the shutoff for the gas, this is the shutoff for the water?
Yeah, knowledge is just totally helpful in situations like that.
So one of those 7 is hopefully home.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to add to
Failing that, these fellows like CanStar or whatever, they have a good idea where some of these things are located too. So if they show up quickly on the scene, they can assist as well.
Yeah, I'm just in the process of doing a 30-year-old building that's had water issues where the water comes into the suites. It's been breaking off at the floor level, where it comes in contact with the concrete and the copper, and that complex has no drawings or anything.
Oh.
So here I'm making a drawing up for them. I'm tracing all their water lines. I'm showing them where all their shutoffs are. They don't know where the shutoffs are to the units that are even at the street. And going to the city, and this is out in the Alder Grove area. So when it was done out there, I don't know, it was kind of like a regional district. So it's hard to even get drawings for. So I'm tracing everything out for them right now, and I'm going to give them a drawing that shows where all the shutoffs are, so they can shut off all the complexes where.
Is that common that there's no sort of blueprint for the building?
In the older days, nowadays everything has to have as-built and everything else when it's built, eh? But if you go back, even 25 years ago, it was a lot easier to get your permits and get everything done. You basically just needed a building permit and away it went, right?
No,
So,
I remember a situation some time ago where we had to shut the water off to the suite, and we knew it was in that hallway wall. But we didn't know where in the wall, so we had to start banging holes in the wall to find a shutoff.
Well, that's the next question, actually. It says, we recently had a busted water heater, and it leaked into our Strata unit. I felt helpless watching the water spread while waiting for the contractor to arrive. When a loss occurs, is there anything I can do to limit the damage? I mean, this is a situation where they don't know where to shut it off. Water's pouring into the unit. What can you do?
Yeah.
What should they do? Get out?
No, I scream, ask for help,
Start bailing.
So a situation like that, a thing that has to be done is to turn off the source, and somebody's got to locate that.
Just having buckets and moving the water into the,
Well, if it's gushing, there's only so much you can do. If
Right.
if it's something manageable, maybe you have some hints as to.
Well, if it's something manageable, I think we can try and dam it with towels and whatnot and control the source as best we can. One of the things I always want people to consider is their own personal safety. There's electrical issues that could come into play. I don't know how they've configured their home, how they've wired their stereos, and all these great
But
things.
then the other thing with water, when it's going from an upper unit to a lower unit, it always seems to go through the pot lights, right? I always see like water drains through the pot lights, and that's a charged system, right? There's electricity in there.
No, but knowing it is grounded, you're okay that way. But then again, I always use a certified electrician when I'm dealing with electricity, just like I use a certified plumber if I'm dealing with plumbing, because they know how to handle the situation.
Do you get any cowboy strata councils that say, well, I got a friend and he can do it? I mean, do you ever run into that?
All the time.
Really?
All the time. And depending on the nature of the thing, it's okay having volunteers to help out. But when you're talking about electrical, I'm certainly not going to say, oh, yeah, have your friend do this.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be sure that they're certified, they know what they're doing. Not just some guy who happens to be electrical savvy. I mean, they can help out maybe in an emergency situation to help locate things. But, somebody says the water's coming through my light fixture in the ceiling. My first comment is don't touch it, turn off the light, just kind of basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to try and find out where the water's coming from.
Well, the next question leads into just what I was talking about, the pot light situation. We recently woke up to find water pouring through our bathroom light from an upstairs unit. The restoration company got us cleaned up, but how? But now we have to deal with the insurance company, et cetera. What should I expect when I have a water claim? Right? Well, how detailed is a water claim? You hear stories of water isn't covered with insurance. It has to be,
All water is going to be covered with insurance. If the call comes into the management company or their emergency service, the first thing that's done is somebody like CanStar is called out to attend.
to clean it all up.
Yeah,
That's what
so-
they're saying. It's been cleaned up. What next?
Okay, well, that would be the repairs, and often that'll be handled through the same people who were involved in the cleaning up in the emergency service. Maybe you can speak a bit.
Well, the drying process for some, like the first initial day or two, we're going to assess it and figure out what we have to do to get it back to pre-loss condition. What you usually end up doing is you'll go through a variety of different things, but it takes about 4 to 7 days to dry a structure. Once we get into the drying stage, and then after that we have to put together a repair scope. We submit it to the property manager. It's reviewed by all members, and then once we go from there, we can move forward and improve it.
I had a friend who had a water damage on hardwood floors, and they repaired the floor.
Yes.
But a year later, it never matched. It looked terrible, right? And they came back and they said, well, you know what? For us to go and repair this, and they replaced the whole floor. The insurance company, they just said, we're not going to try and, nickel and dime and try and match it up. Let's just make sure it all matches and go with new flooring.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the incident you're talking about. Normally, in the incidents I've been involved in, if a hardwood floor is damaged, what we would typically do is remove the damaged area. I would replace it with like kind and quality wood. Then you'd have to sand down the entire floor and restain it so it matches completely.
Right.
So there is
There's
a right way and a
know that
wrong way
wasn't
to do
done.
it.
Yeah, it was
right?
very
So-
localized patch.
Yeah, so somebody might have been trying to cut some costs or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
So every situation is different, and the key is making sure that your insurances are in order, and that what the end game is going to be, what we all want at the end, and we agree that this is what we want. So make sure you speak exactly what you want to see at the final.
Yeah, and document, I guess, everything.
Yeah,
as well.
100%. Yes.
All right, the next question. Our Strata unit suffered some damage during a small fire. What happens now? What updates should I expect? Who should they come from? I guess there's updates also when you have a fire that there's going to be code changes too, right?
There's that possibility.
If the building, as you mentioned, is 30, 40 years old, and then you get in there and you have to do repairs, the code has changed, right?
Well, there's a lot of, with a fire, fire or flood, there's a lot of different aspects that come into play. Nowadays, there's so many different things that we have to consider before we do any removal of materials. If we're talking about a building that was built before pre-1990,
That's not that long ago.
which is not that long ago, but there's a lot of opportunities for asbestos and lead that come into play. So now we have to go through some testing. We have to make sure that when this is removed, if it is positive, it's done in the right format, all these types of things. So things have changed. WCB's put things into a better format so that people are better taken care of safely. So it does take a while. The reports generally would come from the restorer, and they would go to the property manager, and then the property manager would facilitate helping to advise everybody on how we're going. Now,
So work with the restoration company like CanStar and say, this is the situation, this is the way it was before, what steps are we going to do to get there? That's basically what you said about the flooring situation.
yeah,
right?
more or less, correct, yeah.
And so what happens if there's a change maybe to the structure or to the code or to something? Like who is that's insurance?
If it's an insurance claim that we're talking about, most strata insurance these days allow for changes in building codes when replacing and repairing.
Yes, correct.
So it doesn't affect the owner or the owners at all in that regard. The insurance will pick up the upgrade. It's part of the coverage.
Yeah, so one example would be that shutoff. Like if there wasn't a shutoff, maybe the code now says that there has to be a localized shutoff in each unit, I'm guessing.
That's right.
That's right.
That's what it is.
So
yeah.
if it wasn't there before, you would put that in and the insurance would cover that.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Balconies are often like that.
Yeah.
The code today is different than it was 30 years ago when
Yes.
they built them. So replacing the railing requires a different type of design.
All right, we're just getting into it. StrataLife, our experts are here. We have Drew Grout from Key Pacific Property Management. We have Albert Atfield, Project Manager at CanStar Restorations, and Jim McGregor from JMac Mechanical Services. We're going to get into more questions and answers from the experts next on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.